Thank you to the Fairgrounds for getting your past performances out a week in advance. This allows us to do stuff like this. So while you're waiting all day for the Super Bowl to start, you can already turn your attention towards next Saturday, which I'm going to go on record as saying is the best Kentucky Derby prep race so far and maybe for the next couple of weeks.
Trust the Profits is proud to be sponsored by Game of Silks. Go to silks.io to get in the game. Real ownership, real races, real rewards.
That's it. This is your first early look preview at the Risen Star. Sean, am I out of whack by saying that this is definitely the best field so far on the Kentucky Derby Trail?
Not at all. I think this is by far the toughest prep race so far, and one that I'm very, very excited about to watch for sure.
Yeah, this field is stacked. Let's take a quick look at your current Kentucky Derby standings as of February 10th. Of course, today we had No More Time come in and win over in Tampa Bay.
Yes.
So he gets the 20 points and he quickly jumps up. And that's what's big about a lot of these races is you win one and suddenly you're right in the top 5, 6, 7, or 8. But now we have a race at the Fairgrounds with the Risen Star where you got horses that are already on that list who are going to be pining for some points to move up it quickly, including one of my favorites, the horse that I have on top so far, my boy Track Phantom, who's coming in off of 3 victories, 2 big performances, one in the Gun Runner, one, of course, in the Lecomte. This is your early speed threat. This horse has set some pretty fast fractions on the backside and been able to maintain that. Track Phantom, to me, is the horse owned by VIP Silks. I think you've got a great shot here, VIP, in the Game of Silks. I'll start right there, Sean. Track Phantom is your early speed. He gets an outside draw, which may be detrimental, and you think that there's a horse maybe that's going to give him a little problem out there.
Yeah, I think Cardinal, the Todd Pletcher animal, I think he has to go out for the lead. He's been on the lead. Flavian is the master of rating horses, especially up front. It'll be interesting how he plays it versus Track Phantom, who I think is the fastest animal in this field. Don't get me wrong. But it'll be interesting to see how Flavian plays it and how close he is to Track Phantom in this race. I kind of highlighted last time when Track Phantom ran that he just clearly got to the lead, but no one really pushed him that hard up front. It'll be interesting to see if Resilience is indeed Cardinal is the one with Flavian to push him up front, knowing the horses that Todd has other horses like Moonlight who might depend on it.
You made a astute observation with Joel Rosario jumping on Track Phantom. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, this is a fascinating one to me because Joel was so impressive on Hall of Fame, but also he was on Track Phantom. And obviously, it would be interesting to see if he had the choice or Steven had who made what decision or whatever. But he rode them both on the same day, so he'd have a clear picture in his mind which one he thought was definitely the one to beat. So the fact that Joel sides with Track Phantom, if for fans like yourself who've liked him since day one, that can only be a positive that he decides to stay on this horse and not on the Hall of Fame, despite the ultra impressive debut.
Yeah, I'm going to do a quick run through just to give people the field here, right? So 1 and 2 are going to be long shots. The one Tizzy Indy was overmatched in the Lecomte, hasn't really put up the speed figures. You could probably pass through on the 2 inside horses here, right? But listen to this, Sean. Number 3, Anna Marie, increasing speed figures, won the Kentucky Jockey Club when going 6 wide. Number 4, Sierra Leone, ran at Aqueduct with Dornock. Remember that impressive Dornock stretch run where he came back? Sierra Leone was the one that was also impressive in that race who came flying late. The 5, Moonlight, increasing figures, has not really gotten a fast track, right? Last 2 races, muddy, sloppy, started the career on the turf. So how's this horse going to perform on a fast track? Real Men Violin, you can't ignore the Kenny McPeak barn right now after what he's been doing lately. Right. Increasing speed figures, a 2nd in the Kentucky Jockey Club. Took a little while to break the maiden, but 2 of those are on the turf. Has 4 second places. Hall of Fame is a highly touted horse. If you don't think so, look at the name that they gave the horse. If you don't think, what do you think they think this horse of, right? To call him Hall of Fame. He won by 10 lengths in his maiden winner at Fairgrounds. Catching Freedom, a horse that Keith at each and every stride is extremely impressed by, who won the Smarty Jones. Cardinal, a horse who's only raced twice, who's shown some talent. Resilience comes out of your Bill Mott. Oh, you get Johnny V aboard there. So if the horse isn't strong enough, you're getting the best jockey in the business. Track Phantom 3 in a row, and then even B Dancer. Don't ignore Dallas Stewart on these big days. Sean, I through the whole field, and just looking at it quickly, you could give a nod almost to all of them.
Yes, absolutely, you could.
Where do you think? Where is your attention immediately? What are you most excited to see here in the Risen Star?
Okay. Well, the one thing that I see, obviously, is if you are a track phantom, maybe you don't like track phantom. I'm just playing devil's advocate there. Obviously, the 11 post is not the ideal post, for this distance, going that way. But the interesting thing is that Cardinal is not far from him at the 9 post. So I think both of them from the outside will have to go, in terms of, so it will be interesting to see how that sets up. Now, what does that do for Hall of Fame? Does Hall of Fame sit like he did in his last race and just pounce halfway through? Or does Ricardo take a little bit more relaxed approach and kind of let those two go out? It should be very interesting to see. The thing I do like, too, and Keith will be very happy if he's watching this, is Catching Freedom. Who does Brad Cox put on but Mr. 33% Luis Saez? Remember last year in this race, they won it, I won them like 14-1 coming down the way. Luis Saez and Brad Cox win so many stakes races, and the fact that he replaces and puts Luis Saez on this horse says to me that Brad is serious about this horse, and definitely a horse that you have to consider.
Here's some other figures to pay attention to. Your highest lifetime speed figure going by Brisbane that comes from Sierra Leone. The experience at the distance, Sean. This is a 1 1/8. A lot of these horses have been running 1 16. So yeah. I would assume for you, an astute handicapper, you're definitely going to be digging in on horses that can get the distance here.
Yes. Yeah, and Track Phantom definitely has done that before, so that's definitely he should like this. And the 1 16 he's been running consistently, but I think the 1 1/8 he was still finishing with runs, so I don't think the 1 1/8 will be a problem for him.
Yeah, and your only other horse that's been tested at that distance is Moonlight.
Right.
At the 1 1/8. Best late pace is Anna Marie, becoming late. And your early speed, as we mentioned, comes from Track Phantom. Sean, when I first took a look both at the Prime Power, I didn't even need to look at the Prime Power to know that this race was going to be competitive by your entries. So you can tell how close the numbers are there of how competitive this race is going to be. But what I was a little surprised by is look on the left side. I highlighted it. There's actually not as much speed signed on here, which may actually set up nicely for Track Phantom.
Yes. That's why I was saying, which is interesting. It's going to be very interesting to see, what Resilience does, what Flavian does. Does he take on him or does he try to rate? And Hall of Fame, Santana, where does he place his horses? Because they are really the only 3 that have like early speed. Everybody comes from like Sierra Leone. If he tries to do on this Fairgrounds track what he did at Aqueduct by coming from like 23, 24 lengths, it's not happening. That doesn't happen at Fairgrounds. You don't come from 24, 25 lengths back because I don't think the pace is going to be that fast, So it'll be very interesting to see how this race is run. What does Cardinal and Flavian do towards trying to get Track Phantom softened up? And where does Santana put Hall of Fame? What strategy will Steve have for his 2 horses to try to finish 1, 2? It's a fascinating a study for sure.
I'm going to put you on your toes here because we didn't talk about this prior, but this is also a question that I'm going to ask our astute listeners in the comments. So please comment below. And my question is, over under 4.5 for horses in this race that will make the Kentucky Derby gate. And I'll give you a second to kind of do the math and maybe look through it and count off there on the list of who you think actually could, talent-wise, and, a lot of them are actually on the standings here. 4.5. Do you think more than 4.5 or less of these horses will make the Derby?
I'll go under.
Okay.
I'll go under, and I'm not. I could be totally wrong on that. You know what I'm saying? Like the talent wise that you have in this race could definitely be over. But we know how difficult it is to get to this starting gate in May. You know what I'm saying? And if you the Derby was now in May, I may be over on this group. You know what I'm saying? But right now, I'm just going to go under because I'm saying solid 3. I'm not going to go 4 or 5 until they show me that they're in that group. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm not a great lines maker, so maybe I made it too
Yeah.
high. But off the top, I was like, I think Anna Marie, I think Sierra Leone, I think Real Men Violin. Hall of Fame's obviously a wild card. Track Phantom is basically in. And then, it's between Catching Freedom and what you might get in Cardinal.
Sure. The potential of this group is 7. I'm saying that the potential, you know what I'm saying? If they step up their games is 7. But as we all know, we're in February, we're not in May. So you know what I'm saying? So you don't know,
For sure. What's our favorite friend on Twitter like to say?
Right. Is that don't until the day of the Derby, don't even do it. Exactly.
Wait until May. But that's why we're here, Sean. This is what we do.
Man, that's for you. Exactly.
We throw that in every episode just for him. All right, Sean, it's only Saturday. We get these past performances nice and early. Yes. But if you had to pick a top pick, who are you going with here on the 2024 Risen Star?
Okay, my top pick, obviously, I'm going to just preface something. Track Phantom is the horse to beat, okay? But if I'm going for a pick this early, I am going with Catching Freedom, especially with Brad Cox adding Luis Saez, right? The only thing I will have concern about Catching Freedom is I will be watching the track throughout the day to see how speed is playing. You know what I'm saying? Like, if are people coming from behind? Is the track playing fair, or is the track playing speed? If it's track's playing speed, it totally falls into Track Phantom's hands. You know what I'm saying? In terms of the way that the track is running. And then again, the question is, what does Cardinal and Hall of Fame do to possibly upset Track Phantom? Because they're the only two that show on paper that early have any interest in being up front.
Yeah, I agree. I love Track Phantom, but I'm actually not going to put him on top here. I think the price, because of what he's done the last 2, makes him a horse that, while I think he's very talented, I think he's one of my favorites so far this year. This would be a spot where I'd actually play against him, and I'd be really intrigued by Sierra Leone. This is a horse that I think in that last race at the Remsen was ultra impressive, and although got beat by Dornoch, I just thought that this horse really showed some talent, came back with a 98 at speed figure. It could be the opportunity there to bounce, but that was December 2nd, has put up some pretty good solid workouts since then. I think that Sierra Leone would be the pick actually right now that I would put on top. Sure. Anybody here from a price standpoint that you might think you get some value on?
Yeah, there's a lot of them. Like I think the real question mark, like a horse in this race, obviously Hall of Fame is a question mark, but Anna Marie coming back from a long layoff, you know what I'm saying? Like a very impressive race in Churchill. Does that transfer over to this track? And they might be the forgotten kind of horse in this race. Where like if you get like 8-9 to 1 on them. That's value, and the horse is talented. So it should be. I think that one kind of catches my eye. If something up front were ever to kind of, dissolve up front, that would be an interesting horse for me at a price.
Yeah, I'll take Keith's advice. I don't know if it'd be a price, but if you got a penny, bet it on Kenny. I'm interested in Real Men Violin. I kind of thought this was his best horse, and he showed some alternates that he had last week with Mystic Dan. And winning the Philly race that day as well. But I think Real Men Violin is a horse that is always there, very consistent, and I don't think we've seen the best of that horse yet. Any last words for the fans, Sean?
Just tune in. This is gonna be a fun race. I mean, this is a very talented race. Do yourselves a favor. Watch the whole day. See how the track's playing, because this could really kind of influence how this race is run. Like if the speed is not holding up that day, this could be, if it's muddy, if something's happening on that track, watch the tendencies to see it around the two turns how they're doing, because it could greatly influence how this race is run.
And we've already taken a look at that undercard. Nash returns, a horse that Track Phantom's already put away a few times. And you have a horse on the undercard you're interested in.
Yes, Centennial Farms. Yeah, Antiquarian, the son of Preservationist, who in the first race at Gulfstream lost to a very impressive Shug McGay horse who was in trouble and still found a way to win very impressively. And that one could be good. But it was at one turn. It wasn't at two turns. And I think Antiquarian, being out of Preservationist, the longer the better. We're now seeing Preservationist babies. I know at Gulfstream in the Mat 1 today on the turf going longer. The longer they're going, the better his animals are going. So I think the longer, the better for Antiquarian. And he's going to be, and Johnny V rode him the first time, liked him a lot, is back on him a second time at Fairgrounds. I think he's definitely one to watch going forward.
There you have it. That is your Risen Star first look. We also have the Sunland Derby on the Sunday, right? One of the few Sunday prep races that you get in the Kentucky Derby.
Mind that bird.
That's right. That's right. So stay tuned. I'll be going to Fairgrounds for the doubling down. I'll probably reach out again to Kevin Kilroy. I'm sure Sean will be back this week with his picks at Turfway or Woodbine. Where you going?
Yep, for sure. Yep.
There you go. And we'll be live on the lounge on Thursday. Please like and subscribe. Until next time, I'm Colin. He's Sean.